before.
Surprise! We're online
Again,
again. It's
like all we can do is,
like Groundhog Day.
yeah, seriously. We didn't get it right the first time. We got to learn how to play the piano, John.
Oh man, for sure, for sure. I was getting ready. James, we're getting ready to go live. James like, we are. Oh, yes. Yeah, it's us again. We're back. Like a bad rash. Just won't
Yeah,
go away.
like a mechanical problem you thought you had hammered out before the last jump,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
no.
So everybody hold on. We're hitting warp speed. We're going plaid.
Yeah.
So so how are you tonight, James? Are you
I
rested?
am.
Are you warmed up? Are you feel better?
I feel overexposed. I look at my picture on the thing and it's like practically grayscale, but it is what it
I know.
is.
That's what I was saying. I got to lighten you up because it was so dark and it's washing the color out.
That's all right. Nobody
We
really
we broke it.
trust,
I broke you.
trust me. You'd be better off putting a picture of the badger here instead of my
No,
face.
no, no, no. Don't talk
That's
about
okay.
the badger.
Or, John, stop. What else did you think we were going to talk
Yeah,
about?
yeah,
Come
yeah, yeah. Let me see if I can make it less gray.
That's all right. So yeah, it's work and life is it's been very interesting. I come home and I have to have the water line replaced to my house. I have to buy a new refrigerator. I have to replace the overflow tank on my car, and then while I'm replacing that, I tear the hose in half because it's old and the hose is not available locally. So I had to order that. So I had to drive my backup car, which turns out wants to go to the mechanic slash spa. That's what our car is called, the mechanic. It's the spa. It wants to go to the spa next week. So it's been a. I should have just ordered some extra badgers. It
You
would have been
should.
cheaper.
You should. How's that for color? Do you feel more colorized now?
It's perfect, John. Perfect. I feel like I belong in a 60s Star Trek episode. I'm the villain from the
You're,
Green
you're
Zone.
like the secret Heidi thing or something like that.
Yeah. I'm the trouble with badgers. That's it.
Yeah, they got all kinds of
But
little
yeah,
things in here.
not too bad. And work is work. Just crazy stuff happened. The IT department decided to take away all my users' permissions, so they couldn't use my tools. And naturally, they call me to wake me up in the middle of the night to sort it out for me to figure out. Oh yeah, it's nothing's changed on my end. It's the dumb IT people that have pushed the wrong button. Group policies. Turns out they're hard to manage.
Yes, and they should have called me because I know how to push the wrong buttons all the time.
those are
I'm the
those are
king of that.
different kinds of
Oh,
buttons.
okay. Like book. All right. Give everybody a couple of minutes to get in here before we get too in depth here.
I'm telling you, John. Though I know you're in my stream on Monday. These Reapers, these Rock Reapers, these sculpts are incredible. I'm looking at them on my desk. So my painting desk is a standing desk, and so when I sit here to do the stream with you on Wednesdays, I'm like eye level with my painting surface. I mean, those things are just spectacular. I like everything about those
They
guys.
are, and that's the, you know, we kind of talk about Kickstarter one and like that, but several of those models got done for that Kickstarter, so they were designed from scratch. We knew what we were working with. We knew what we was getting into, and especially once they're primered,
Hmm.
they look as good as anything we've done. I think. I mean, they're good.
I'm excited to see what you do with some variants because I'm telling you that if you take the big missile pods off, I mean, you can just do anything to those Cav. Any kind
Yes.
of a
Yeah.
rifleman just attach a new set of arms to those guys, they could literally mount and be really sharp looking.
Right. Well, and that's like there's out of that batch. There's the silverback. There's the
Hmm.
imperator. There is the uh, God, I can't even think of names. What's the Terran rocket boat? You know which one I'm
It's not.
talking about?
Is it only have rockets
Yeah, yeah,
in
it's their
this?
version of the Timon or whatever.
Gosh,
I
I'm
can't think of names.
brain for it.
Yeah,
Where's Ross when you need him?
yeah, you know which one I'm talking about though, right? That's got kind of
Yes,
that. Yeah,
yes.
so that's one that came new out of there. Um, so yeah, no, those I thought those turned out really good.
Mm,
So it'll be fun to go back and do some other ones and come up with some
mhm.
variants and stuff. So
We had a nice conversation Monday night about army transportation. So, some of the guys over the CAV-CON weekend started talking about some of the square bottom boxes and lining them with metal and putting magnets, in the recessed part of your bases, which is a great solution
right,
if you have recessed bases. But I think it was Gimli who was saying, but I have flat bases, so like the MDF bases that you put in the swag bags, right?
right,
And so there's no recess there to put a magnet in for to take advantage of that sort of metal bottom box holding thing. And while we were thinking about it, it occurred to somebody, I can't remember who it was, but somebody said, why not just buy like really thin, like kind of penny shaped magnets, right? Really big surface area, but very thin,
right.
and just put three of them on the bottom, like, the legs on a can opener or something, right? It'd be stable. When you play it on the table, there's not a lot of gap there. You're not going to really notice, and it's going to lock into that metal, and you can use it with a flat bottom base. So I thought that was a really great suggestion.
Sorry, the phone was freezing up on me there. Yeah, no, and I caught part of it. I think I fell asleep before the end of the show, so I was sitting there in the chair, and next thing I know is my wife is poking me. Get up and go to bed, honey. Oh, okay. What day is it?
I I have that effect on people, John. That's my superpower.
I don't think it was you. I think it was the 5 earlier days. So,
Yeah,
and I'm
seriously.
still dragging. So,
But as hectic as that felt, and I know we've said this before, I just want to emphasize I am super appreciative of Todd and Hugh and Party Bear and Well Forged and Thunderhead and Mr. Wapple, of all of the support that we got, because I mean they carried so many hours of that show. I was able to actually do some hobbying in the background, just hang out and visit with
right.
you, and it was
Oh, I've
it
got.
went from being a
No, I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
No, I get it.
I was just
I
going to say
start
it,
thinking
it
out
was
loud. I'm sorry.
a little bit. It was relaxing. There were times during, though we were still super busy. There were times when I was able to just sit there and enjoy watching, especially Well Forged. I'd never seen him ever paint before. I hadn't seen much of Party Bear, so I wanted to take the opportunity to really get a sense of what they were doing and what their superpowers were, basically.
Right. No, I've got several emails. I've got several private messages from people that enjoyed it and how much it was and how appreciative they were and everything like that. And um, I was very, like I said, I was very, very happy with it and I had a good time. I didn't feel like it was nearly the climb from that we had for the
Mm.
first one, you know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and we're learning. There's good things that we need to, if we're going to keep doing this, we've got to figure things out that work good with this format,
Mhm.
especially on the game side of things and stuff like that. So, um, I definitely next time want to have some kind of role playing game, something that people
Okay.
can more be part of, and things like that. So that'll be cool. Um, but yeah,
That would be very interesting. So I during the whole pandemic thing, I kind of purposefully avoided trying out the online role playing scene. I enjoyed watching it. I participated as a lurker in some of those things, but I was always busy enough with hobby projects and just life in general that I never really had time for that. But
right.
maybe during a virtual CavCon, you could have a virtual Cav RPG
Well, I
game.
would think, yeah, for the conventions and for virtual stuff, RPGs lend itself to that format much, much better.
Mhm.
But with that being said, we've got to figure out a way to um, do some games and stuff like that, and that may be just finally breaking down and getting tabletop simulator or something like that together, because
Hmm.
we could run the game in that, and you can have multiple people. People can come in and participate. They can watch,
Hmm.
and be much more. We could be a lot more visual. So that's
Yeah.
definitely something that we need to move towards. So
So the my my other favorite miniature game, which I won't bother mentioning, it's not BattleTech, um, does a ton of that tabletop simulator
yeah,
stuff. I mean, they've played multiple high level tournament leagues, and you can watch it and follow it through various Twitch channels and whatnot. So I think if you decide to pursue that, if you can find the right coder, whoever, somebody who speaks tabletop simulator very well, or learn it, somebody who can learn it, there it works. I've seen it work for other
right.
games to the nth degree, where people that are highly competitive are playing very accurate and detailed and still friendly but challenging games. It's not an impediment to the game.
Right.
You can still play.
I actually sent them an email. I was willing to get with them and pay them to put it together or whatever, but nobody never got back with me. But I guess I'll have to chase them down again or try. So I was like, "Hey, you guys are saying you want more games on here. That's what we're trying to do.
Hmm.
Let's go, rock and roll."
Interesting.
I know that I've been very impressed with. I don't know how I ended up somewhere. Somehow I get a feed from the Mech Force BattleTech guys in Germany.
Oh,
I
really?
have
Yeah.
no idea how I ended up on that. They are super into that tabletop simulator. They have done an incredible job with the mats and maps and everything like that. So I thought
Hmm.
about contacting them, but they're always in German, so
Yeah.
I have to
Quite
hit
hard to understand their
the
answer.
translate button, and it only does about halfway good. So, but I get the gist.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh
Oh man.
yes, oh man,
Google Google Translate is its own source of entertainment.
yes.
There are a couple of YouTube channels where they take popular songs, translate them into, like, I don't know, 10 or 20 different languages, and then back into English, and then sing the English that came out of all those translations. It's a hoot.
I
It's a hoot.
I know right at the very beginning. This was years ago. This goes into my childish times, but when they were doing the very first voice simulators or whatever, and people were putting little
Mm.
programs out, but you could go to like their website and they'd have a little block there where you could type something in and hit the button and it would play, to show what they could do with it and everything like that. I spent hours typing crap into that to see what I could get that thing to say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it's good childish humor there that I'm prone to. So it is what it is. Uh,
Nothing. Well, John, what'd you do today?
worked on the Badger. So
Who would have ever guessed?
well, it needs a little tweaking. There was some things I after the fact and saw that I wanted, and some changes I wanted to make to it before the final one goes out. And and of course, as I'm looking at the model today, there's a couple of things. Oh, I need to fix that. I need to change that. I'm horrible about that. I'll sit down with something and it'll be 5 minutes worth of it, just a quick fix I need to make, and 3 hours later, I'm like, oh well, I
Mhm.
changed that. I wanted to make this better, and oh well, this could have been done a little different. So that's what I did yesterday, and a little bit yesterday, not a whole lot yesterday, but mostly today, and then hopefully tomorrow I'll finish it up. So yes, Badger tuning. That's exactly what it is. It's just little tweaks and little things that I can add to it. Stuff that people talked about that I've over listened to them talk about things that they would like, and um, you know, uh, I don't think I'm going to be able to get it tweaked enough to where you can put the rockets in or out.
Yeah.
So I think they're just going to be out. I think that if you want to go in and try to it's just right now it's the tolerances are so tight back there
Hmm.
that to make it where it would do that, I think I'm going to have to redesign the whole ass end on it. And
Really?
yeah, and I don't want to, because that's, when you're dealing with MDF and this piece plugs into this piece and this piece plugs into that piece, you make one
Yeah.
change and everything around it has to be changed. You just a half of a millimeter, and voila, you're changing everything. So um, I'm happy with it. I think it looks better with the rockets out.
Hmm.
Anyway, so that's really what I had in mind to begin with. So that's what I'm going to stay with. So
I suspect, John, that some of the modelers out there will find a way. I mean, like in person, maybe
yeah,
they'll cut theirs up or shave it down or replace that piece entirely. I don't know. I suspect we're going to see somebody puzzle out a way to make the missile pods go
right.
in and
I
out.
think I think if you sanded the front and the back of the pod just a little bit, just took just a
Hmm.
sliver off of each side, I think it would go in there. And I got it to go in. Today I was messing with it, but it was so snug. I could hear
Hmm.
stuff popping and snapping. And I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
okay. So I didn't want to. I
Hobby
didn't want
habit.
to push it too hard.
Fuzzy dice and a hula girl. That's what we got to have. Come on now. I for one am looking forward to see what kind of I don't know, call it nose art somebody might decide to do. There's
Right.
plenty of space there. No more excuses for not doing it. Even if it's a custom decal, I mean, go for it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that'll look cool. I mean, I don't know what kind of stuff that the Rock would put on. I mean, I guess I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what people do to it. I've got some uh, ideas in my head. What um, it's not so much the hinge hobby. It's just so tight. Um, there's not enough tolerance in there for it to go to make that twist easy. It's actually got kind of a hinge system to it that it's got a slot and those they sit down in it and a piece goes on the top to hold it. And then if you want to take that piece out and then it's supposed to rock over and be in there. But it's so tight on the outside edges that trying to put it in there was just too much. And like I said, just even to go in there and take a half millimeter out of the actual design moves the whole everything on the back on both sides. So I think I'm better off just to leave it the way it is.
Yep.
So
And just let people modify it
yeah,
themselves.
yeah, because it's like I said, in my mind it was originally going to be open anyway because I think that the design, and I thought that on the original Badger Mini too. When you put it in, when they're in, it
Hmm.
really looks like a box.
Hmm.
And when you get them out, it has a little bit of more character to it to me. So,
Hmm.
but I meant to load the files up today for those the ends too, so that people could start on those if they wanted to, and I forgot. So I'll try to get those in there tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean the Badger, it's exciting. I'm guessing you probably did that work for the turrets, or that's on your
It's
agenda to
on,
do.
yeah, I
Right?
haven't got to that. Like I said, there's 9 sheets that make up the model. So I started on sheet one, and a lot of the hard work was on sheet one. So I'm working my way down the pile. So hopefully I'll finish that up tomorrow. And then I'll need to cut one and put it together just to
Hmm.
double check it so that I don't send out 50 Badgers that I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have might have changed that. No,
Mm.
it doesn't fit no more. Oops.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
not be good.
Well, I need to put together kind of a construction guide anyway. So I'll put that together, and I think I can. If I really get down to it, I can do it in an evening. So
I'm telling you, John, for to fill time when there's nobody broadcasting on your Twitch channel, you just throw on a nice playlist from your music selection and hang a camera over the MDF cutter and throw some Badgers in there and Let it rock.
Yeah, well, it doesn't. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it doesn't. It's not nearly as because it
It's not
changes
like
so fast. You know,
right.
it goes to them pretty quick. So, and
Still, I
especially
mean,
literally, because I mean, that's basically the format that we'll do is we'll cut. You know, sheet one, we'll do 50 of those, and then we'll do sheet two,
mhm.
50 of those, and so that's my first Badger run is we're doing 50. So
Good.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll have it. I would definitely throw it on if there was no other stream on that I was more interested in. I would definitely throw that on in the background, listen to some decent music, and look up occasionally and go, Badger number three, Badger number four, Badger number five.
Yeah, it's very. Well, you guys were here when we were cutting that stuff for the CAV ball. It's very hypnotic.
Mhm.
so,
It is. It's fun to
so
watch.
yeah,
And if you, this is odd, but it also comes with a little bit of an odor. And when I say odor, I don't mean a bad thing. It's kind of a burnt wood, sort of burnt papery kind of smell. It's not unpleasant at
kind
all.
of a
So if you're in the
fireplace, kind of a fireplace smell.
exactly
Yeah,
just a little bit, right? Just it's like you should be roasting marshmallows while cutting out badgers. I think it's a great combination.
it does a little bit. It depends on what direction the wind's blowing too. So, but I've got a pretty good what's the exact word I'm looking for? Not excavation, but extraction.
Exhaust.
Exact, yeah,
Yeah,
extraction system.
yes, it is very good. Yeah,
Yeah, so it
and you
really pulls it out of there.
or you could just open the door and have that little mini tornado that we see, that 40-mile-an-hour wind just clean the shop for you.
Well, you know, and it blew like that yesterday too. So it wasn't as bad today, but it was Monday and Tuesday were
Yeah,
we were pretty windy here. I mean,
it was too
we have
windy.
wind anyway, but a lot of times, but it was really going. It's kind of like because you know out here the shop we're on the edge of town, you know, so we've got a lot of open area around us. So it's even on a slight wind day, it's pretty windy out here, but you get in the center of town with all the trees where our house and everything is. Normally, it's not that big. You know, you might see something up on the top of the trees, but when it's blowing hard enough to be making the fence shake and stuff at the house, it's we're getting some good wind. So
Yeah, serious. John and I had kind of intended Monday before I took off to come home to go play around a disc golf at the nearby golf course, and man, we it's just like hopeless. The wind will blow it back in your face and smack you in the nose with your own disc.
yeah, no,
So
we went and got breakfast and we got in the truck and I said, just FYI, I said, it just came up on my phone that we're under a wind advisory. I said, if we get a wind advisory where we live, you take it seriously because they mean it's
yes,
really going to blow. So
yep.
yeah, I mean, people had fences blown down and all kinds of stuff
Mhm.
around here. So it's trees breaking, blowing and going.
Crazy Kansas.
Yeah, them damn Kansans.
Well, Oklahoma's got a little wind too. I think there's a famous song about that.
Yes, well, especially I went to high school out there in Woodward, where you go into the Panhandle
Hmm.
out there, and yeah, Western Oklahoma is like all of Kansas.
Hmm.
So, what was funny is out there is we actually saw more snow out there for whatever
Hmm.
reason. You just I guess because we're getting closer to New Mexico and stuff, Colorado, but you could get like 2 inches of snow there, but because of the way the wind blew and everything like that, you'd have 8 foot drifts everywhere. I mean, it just oh god, yeah, you'd go out to one side of your house and it just totally like a hill, a mountain going down the side of your house with snow. So crazy.
So my wife and I were earlier today. We're talking about maybe taking a road trip to Denver. What's Western Kansas like? I mean, I'm sure you're going to give me the it's flat, but I mean, what's it like?
It is. It's less green. Actually, you get
Yeah.
up in the northwest corner. There's some areas up there that I've driven through. I was trying to think of some of the towns that are up there. It actually looks like New Zealand, where they filmed The Hobbit.
Really?
Yeah, me and my wife came through there one time, and I'm sure it's spring and when it was, greener or whatever. But with the way the hills and everything were up there and the tree, I mean, it looked like the stuff that they used for The Hobbit. I'm like, hey, they could have come up here and shot The Hobbit. Um,
It would have been cool.
yeah, but you get into Western Kansas. especially along 70 and south, and now I guess a little more south, but especially into the southwest. It is the Kansas everybody thinks it is. It is flat, just
Hmm.
acres and acres of wheat fields. Just tree rows, and that's about all it is. So it's much more windier out there. Of course, that's
Interesting.
that's right there where the Panhandle of Oklahoma is too. So
Yes.
it all goes along with that. So, but it's just,
Lots of wind.
well, that stuff comes. It's just rolling down the Rockies. I mean, that's where it's coming from. It just comes through there. So crazy.
Well, time to talk about some calf stuff,
I
maybe?
don't
A little
know.
bit?
Let's
Yeah,
not make
we don't need
it's no
excuses.
calf no more. Let's call this two old men life.
So, sort of the odd couple,
Yeah,
but not
I
quite as
don't
odd,
know.
maybe. All right.
Yeah, I know. People are here to listen about Cav. We need to talk about Cav, but God, we've been talking about Cav for 6 days straight. Like,
Seems like.
oh, it's
Seems
the
like.
Cav that won't go away.
So, so the reason I bring this up is earlier today I read a little short story that John wrote a long time ago. It's based in a mech universe. I won't give you any details of it because it belongs to John. But it made me think about, Cav's background, right? So we've always said, hey, Cav is really high tech. We're not struggling to figure out how to make calves. We know how to make them. Factories exist. High tech digital camo paint on the outside of them. We could do all kinds of fancy things. So it never really occurred to me. What about, the people, right? I mean, do they have cyberware? Or, do they have like chips in their heads so they can talk to a little baby AI? What's it like? I mean, do they have armor plating built into them, the way cyberpunk characters do? What's give us some idea of what a high tech person might have at their disposal,
I,
John.
I think that, I mean, it's not a big jump to think that there is a pretty sizable cybernetics level. I don't know. I mean, at that point, when you get into that type of technology, and you get that guy that wants Wolverine claws to come out of his hand or something like that. I mean, I think those are all plausible at that point
Mm-hmm.
in the universe. I think that cybernetics, as far as replacements for limbs and stuff like that, would be pretty advanced at that point. In my mind, I think that they can actually grow organs and limbs as
Mm-hmm.
needed. There's probably at times things that happen or whatever that they're not able to do that, and have to replace it with a cybernetic, or an artificial or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. But it's to the point that you can't tell. It's got artificial skin or something on them or something like that. So I think that's all very plausible in the universe. Um, so that side of it, I would imagine that you could, if you wanted to plug in and jack in, to something, you can. I don't think that's
Mm-hmm.
probably as common in a lot of. I mean, because a pilot gets into a cab and pulls their system down over their head and everything like that, it basically dumps them into a cybernetic virtual world,
Mm-hmm.
as they sit there, and they can slide up if they need to use their Mark II eyes to actually Mark One eyes to see something. They can slide that up and look around or whatever. But once they're in that virtual world,
Mm-hmm.
it's very much like the headset that they wear for the F-35 now. When they're in that F-35 and they're in that helmet and they're in that system, they can literally look down and see through the airplane. They don't see the cabin and the area of the airplane. They see the ground below them. And I think that would be the way that they're in the cab. As they sit in that cab,
Mm-hmm.
that perspective is, they can look to the right and look to the left, and they're not seeing the inside of the cab. They're seeing what it looks like outside, a virtual representation of that. So, and at that
Mm-hmm.
point, with the amount of bandwidth and everything that they would have, it would be very hard to even probably tell it that it's not new, that it's not real,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So,
So that kind of helps me. So you look at the model that I'm sure we ordered like a bunch of during CAV-CON, that the Kodiak, right?
Right,
It's got that one big Mac sort of up here on its shoulder, and it's right kind of down below it. It's got what looks like the cockpit probably,
right.
but I mean that's not a problem, right? So even though that gun would, I mean, in World War II fighter would block everything and you couldn't see to the left of your
And
vehicle
probably
with this
not to
system.
the front because of flash or whatever, you know. So it's like,
Oh yeah, seriously.
yeah,
But with this advanced system, you basically just look right through it. It's
right.
not there as
It's
far as
not
you're
there
concerned.
once you're in that virtual world. Um,
Hmm.
and really the cockpits are not necessary. I mean, it's like the concussion. I mean, it doesn't really have a cockpit. It's got that little round, vision port or whatever on the very top of it or whatever, but it doesn't have a traditional cockpit because they don't need them. Um,
Right.
if there's a cockpit on there, it's kind of, it's like the Mercury astronauts, when they first saw the capsule, and if you've ever watched The Right Stuff, where's the window? You don't need no window, we want a window, and that's really what the cockpit is. It's a version of something that if they want to be able to look out or something like that, they can. Um,
Hmm.
Basically they're not really glass. The cockpits are
Yeah.
basically transparent aluminum. I mean, something like that,
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I figured they were transparent armor, just the same
yeah, that's what
armor.
I'm saying.
Its
It's
properties
yeah, it's got
change. Yeah.
it's to a level that's even more. So, um, I got into the biggest argument with somebody one time that I said something to them about transparent aluminum, and they were like, "Oh, there's no such thing." I said, "Dude, we've already got transparent aluminum. Go look it up." So it's yeah. So I mean, you throw in advanced alien civilizations and
Hmm.
500 years down the pipe or 400 years down the pipe, there's some pretty cool stuff out there. So uh,
Yeah. I'm not to bring up the devil in the
yeah,
details, but I'm really excited once we start hammering out all the background and the fluff for the RPG stories and things
yeah,
like that. I'm just super excited to see where the Adenese, the Almirathol, the fairly high tech races are.
right.
I'm
And
super
as far
curious.
as I mean, and 3D printer technology is going to come so much further. A lot of that stuff
Right.
is, they carry rather than carry a bunch of parts, they just carry the material that they need to 3D print the part that they need.
Right.
There's no molecular kind of, you don't have a vat of something that you print from and it changes it to whatever you want it to change from, aka Star Wars, but or Star Trek, but they do a lot of 3D printing. That's part of an engineer and part
Hmm.
of that systems that they carry is, they're able to set those up and actually print the parts that they need to during the combat or whatever during a mission if needed.
Hmm.
So there's that part of it. I think that entertainment wise, I think that they use a very I think they have the ability to put anybody's face in something. If they want to have,
Hmm.
to me, I think a very big part of in the future would be they probably are they especially in Terran space, they're manufacturing movies with John Wayne in it. Because
Hmm.
they can just take John Wayne and they made a digital representation, and because of the technology and the level that it is, they're making movies with John Wayne and other
Hmm.
actors like that. I think news service wise, it would be, they have the ability to, one guy is giving his news or something like that, um, and depending on what planet, what audience, or whatever, they just put a different person over there. So one guy, the real guy, could be doing the news, but somebody over here sees a blonde female, and this guy over here sees a black man or something like that. So it can be changed to the crowd. So
Hmm.
I found a copy of CAV's second edition. How much of the fluff is still canon in it? I'm gonna assume you mean CAV, the first, is it an actual book? Because there's no copy of CAV2. It was strictly an electronic PDF file. We'll see.
It's interesting.
Yeah, so if you have
But I mean,
a book, it's actually first edition CAV. It may be a second printing. I think we did 2 or 3. It's a PDF. Okay. Um, Not a whole lot of it, because they talk about they still have the mega corporations. They talk about the first galactic war and the start of the second galactic war and stuff like that. Parts of it are still there, because we haven't had a galactic war yet. In the CAV strike ops, we have not had a CAV or a galactic war. So there's little bits of it that are still accurate that we fall back onto and that will be incorporated into the game. But for the most part, not a lot of it. So I think that it's, again, as I've said over and over, CAV Strike Ops has a lot more in common overall with CAV First Edition than it does CAV Second Edition. Where CAV Second Edition kind of comes into the picture is with the essays, because we included essays in the game, because I felt that those were very strong to make the models different from each other, rather than just being the BattleTech cookie cutter models of different tonnage. You can have models with different abilities, things that we can always add later on that we can do as specials or whatever, that we can. And I try to work. I try to stay within the rules as much as possible. But it's like the Warden Bee. By using the rules, I actually, with the version that we've got that I put in there that we were talking about. Because of the way that the CAV program works, it's not always easy to print it out correctly. But it's only got one gun, but by rules you can actually put 2 of the same guns on that CAV. Well, so what we did is there's just one of the guns on there, but it gets a +1 to the attack. So it's like an automatic salvo every time. You're always, because it's only got the one weapon, so you're always salvoing with it. So you get that +1. So it makes it, in the lore or whatever, you can just say that it's a more advanced, higher caliber or whatever. What makes it do more damage, but it's still a legal model. We didn't change anything in the rules. It's just the presentation, and that's what I try to do. Anytime I put something special for something in there, that's why I try to stay within the confines of that, or give it something that's in the game. It's like the dervish. The dervish you never jams. It does, but it's equipped with so much ammo. It's always just clears it. So
yeah, it's got 4 ammo bins.
yeah, well, I think is it just got even 4 on there? Does it even have more or something? I think it was just however it was originally set up, but it's you cannot jam or run out of ammo on a dervish. So if that's something you're worried about happening all the time, make sure you take a dervish. So they have lots of ammo on them.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
They do.
And I think that would also probably be, it might be as we develop things, that might be something that we add to the Kodiak, because that Kodiak has, if you look at those weapons, it has an external ammo cartridge that goes into those weapons for their deals or whatever. So I think that would be one that would benefit from that, because it has the ability to, it's not being fed internally or anything like that. It could, if it carries a couple extra cartridges or something like that, it could actually, do that. I don't know how it would necessarily do it in the field, but because it has no hands, but I don't know. It's something to look at. So
I noticed when you look through the list of CAVs, many of them have the manufacturer listed.
yes,
Hughes, Marietta, places like that.
right.
Was that always in the back of your mind? Was that always a fluff thing, or was there ever like any kind of rules that were going to tag along with those guys?
Well,
What was the thought?
that's a carryover from. I mean, obviously it's a fluff element, but that's a carryover from the original CAV with the corporations, the mega corporations or whatever. Um, so that kind of was a carryover from them. We've added lots of more manufacturers than what was originally in the first book, but that's where uh, um, that kind of stuff. It just is a carryover from that. I try to, I look at things and if a model is made, if they have something similar or whatever, I try to use the same manufacturers or things like that. And as you'll see in the JOR, there's a little more oomph to that, to what they are in the background. So I did enjoy the fluff about Ritterlich restaurants, kind of terrifying to the non-Ritter. Yeah, well, and that's the thing that I know we always tease about them being vampire Nazis or something like that, but they're really not vampires. Maybe 1,000 years ago or something, they might have ripped the heart out of an opponent or something and took a bite out of it or something. But I mean, we had people on our planet do that, so it's not like doesn't automatically make you a vampire. But they do enjoy the taste of blood. It's like if you like a bloody steak, well, they really love a bloody steak. So, and they have some German feel to them. I mean, and that goes back to I wanted each faction to have its own kind of version of something in art, just so that you as a person can identify with that easier. It's I know what Germans are, and and that's where that kind of comes from. But I think to me they're very, very much more Prussian than they are Nazis. They're more turn of the century type Germans. So somebody was trying to. I think it was Hugh that thought they were like Celtic or something like that. I'm like, where did you get that from? But they, the feudal side of it is very Teutonic Knights. If you go back and look at that, that's at the beginning of the Crusades and stuff like that. So that's kind of, to me, that's really what they are. They're kind of Teutonic Knights and Prussians, kind of mixed together. So.
Hugh, he's always modifying.
Yeah, he modified that one right out of his ass. So I'm like, what the hell did you get? How did you get Celtic or whatever out of it? Somebody I think said something about bagpipe playing Ritter or something. No. So, but that's really where, like I said, they're not space Nazi vampires. So, contrary to popular belief.
That would be too easy, you know what I mean? It would kind of pigeonhole them and make them almost comedic.
Yeah. You made them very campy, and they're not that. Right. I mean, to me, there's some awesome stories to be had with the Ritter. I think that just the whole background, the mentality, the stuff that goes in there, the fact that where they're at with that you have. As a family or as an officer, you have the ability to actually raise your own troops, So, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff in there with the Ritter. I think the Ritterlich, there's cool stories with all of them. I think, the Malvernans, I think that they're really the hardest one that I've had, that I haven't pushed. I have some thoughts in my head how I want them to be, but I haven't totally nailed them down yet. I know that it kind of comes across in the book that they're fanatics and everything like that, but just like anything else, there are levels of Malvernans. There's a level up here of the fanatic, the deals, and then there's kind of the moderate in between things, and then there's guys down here that think Cardulis is a joke, that why, and stuff like that, and so how the Malverns deal with that as an overall thing, internally and externally. You have lots of You can go to, border worlds and stuff like that. There's, I think we kind of touched about it in Kickstarter 2 as kind of the background story behind the new Vesla that we were talking about in there. That is an independent world that's within A space, but there's a large contingent of Ritter that live there. Ritter that have left, crossed the border and doing their own thing there, so that that they could get away with some of the things that they didn't like about the Ritter. So, Thunderhead, welcome. How are you doing, sir? Yeah, religious zealots, to everybody, they look at them, it's just like how people view different groups now, there can be lots of, a particular religion, and I've got to be careful how I phrase this because I'm not trying to pigeonhole anybody. I don't want to make anybody mad, but there's different religious groups that we have on our planet, and some of them to you and me seems crazy. To the people that are in it, they think we're crazy, but for the majority of those people, they are not fanatic bombers or anything like that. There's a very small percentage of that in the overall deal, but we as a human being tend to take a broad swath with a paintbrush and go, oh, well, you're that religion and this one guy did this, so all of you do this, okay? And I think that's kind of the overall feeling that the rest of the universe has about the Malverns.
So I was listening to you talking about the Ritter and all that, and just in my head, this kind of story scenario / just question idea came in my head. So if I were a mercenary group and I was going to anger one of the big factions to the point where I had to worry about them, right? They were probably going to send some people to try and get revenge or imprison me or, just whatever the thing was. It was like in my head, if I could pick any one of them, which faction would I least like coming after me? And honestly, it occurred to me it would probably be the Ritter. I just feel like they're very thorough and dedicated and not mischievous, just like
I don't
sneaky maybe.
Right, because the Rock, especially the Rock don't carry a grudge. I mean, we've had that conversation about that before. You can't, they just look at what they do as any other day, and if somebody does it back to them or something like that, it is what it is. So. But yeah, no, I could see the Ritter. The Templars, I think the Templars could be very thorough in what they would want to do. So yeah, between the two, and probably the Malvernans too a little bit. Maybe So Malvernans give me an impression of a papal state. That's kind of one of the thoughts that I had with the Malvernans. Is the Malvernans to me are a mix of the Pope and that system there, fanatical religion and so what and stuff in there, and throw in a little Spanish Inquisition, So there's that, yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, and the Malverns have always kept to themselves because they look at the big picture. They look at it from, the overall group that's in charge or everything like that. It's Cardoodle's plan, and the plan will evolve. The plan will be what it is, and we're just along for the ride. And that's the way they really look at it. And so they're much more defensive in nature. Obviously, there's probably things that could happen down the road that could get them on the deal. They are just like Terran and Rock space. That border is a constant kind of a war zone through there. Rock and Malvernon space has the same problem. So you get up in the north end of Malvern space, and they have the same problem that the Terrans do. It's kind of the Rock tend to really, they probably in the level of, they really mess with the Terrans, they really mess with the Malverns. They mess a little bit with the Ritter, even less with the A&Es. So, but they need those um, right, and the Rock are they're attacking all the time, but it's not from a sense of it's like playing football to them. This is the way they have been always, and the guys in charge, they know that they need a safety valve, and if they don't have if they can't turn that attention of the Rock away from them, it's going to come back at them, and they know that that they're going to have a problem. And having 300 or 400 years now of the Rock having contact with other people, the Rock have learned to have a little more of the ability to look at the big picture themselves. They realize the guys that are in charge, they're not ignorant, they're not dummies, they're not going to just charge into the machine gun over and over and over in waves, do a Zulu attack and call it good. It might have been that way at the beginning, but it's just like kids and stoves. They touch that burner enough times. There's at some point they're not going to touch that burner anymore. So the trick is how do you as a parent have that child or your kingdom learn those lessons without the flesh being cooked off their hand. You've got to learn how to do that. So that's what they're having to figure out too. So that's kind of, we've alluded to the way things are coming. The A&Es have always kind of been that stopper in the bottle, to keep the genie out. And if something was to happen and that stopper gets popped, everybody's not going to like probably what's going to happen. So lots of good stuff. And like I said, and with so many independent worlds and separate sections in the Terrans, you could do nothing but write scenarios and adventures in Terran space from now on, and not even touch the other aliens. Because you get into the Terran space, it's very much the Wild West, with pirates and corporations and different groups fighting for worlds, and worlds fighting worlds for control of this or whatever. So.
Mm-hmm. I kind of imagine in my head the Rock, before they encountered the other spacefaring nations, probably impeded their own development because they were constantly fighting each other, and a leader would start to rise and 2 or 3 would pull him or her down, and so on and so forth. And then when they developed an external enemy, now suddenly the Rock can point their this aggressive tendency of theirs at somebody else, which allows the cream of the crop to rise to the leadership circles in rock culture. And then the Rock suddenly, they go from this sort of low roiling bubble to this just intense just burst of energy and power that goes out into the universe.
Well, and that's it's funny that you talk about that, because that's something that's really emphasized in the Flashpoint that I talk about. They went through a long time, if it was generated towards war and weapons and stuff like that, they had a much higher ability to develop those things, because they needed to do that to protect themselves. They very early went into a castle system, because they needed areas to protect themselves from one another and everything like that. And the fact that they were much less fragmented like we are as humans, their early evolution was much quicker than ours. They had firearms long before in the same percentage that we had, that they compared to us. Okay, so a way to look at it kind of as an example would be, we really didn't have firearms and cannons start showing up to like 1400, 1500, right in that area like that, to a degree. As far as that you see like that, if you go back to the turn of 1066 right there, the Battle of Hastings, when Normans came across, and that was still very bows and swords and everything like that. The Rock probably at that point was already with firearms. So they're very much further ahead of that. And we've talked, you know, I brought up the fact that there's two groups of rock. There is the rock and there is the yar. All right. The yar was a much more merchant orientated type group that the rock eventually encompassed, and the yar have continued on as those levels in that thing, and you know over time you get a leader, a rock leader that is able to look at the big picture, um, and focus on certain things and move people in certain directions and stuff like that. That they have the ability to really affect the culture overall. And that's basically how they made it to space. Is, you know, they had a very forward-thinking leader that was able to kind of put things in a direction to know, and you know, and early on, and then this led to this, and this led to this, and kept a group that was able to develop things that were not necessarily always war-based. You know, we talked a little, I brought up the fact that, you know, the Rock have actually conquered two other races, alien races, that is part of their empire. One of them was star, was not able to go into space yet. The second one was in their own solar system. They just hadn't developed the ability to leave their system or whatever. But the Rock pretty much run, you know, right over the top of them. So that's the way they look at it. You know, they already had two under the belt by the time that they met the Adenese and the Ritter and later the Terrans. You know, they just looked at it as, oh, here's another one. But, you know, now, oh, these guys are a little better than the other two. So we got to be a little more careful. And the Flashpoint talks more about those. So. Look at that. You guys got me talking about CAV. I thought we were going to be able to just talk old man stuff.
That might really actually be my superpower, is the ability to get you to talk about CAV.
Talk about CAV. Yeah. That is possibility. That is true. That's a possibility. So, well, listen, we got like 3 minutes left. We managed to just go like that.
Have you seen the last episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
I did.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I'm not big about the guy doing Captain America. I think I made that comment over the weekend.
You mean John Walker?
The John Walker that they replaced me with.
So you don't like John Walker?
No, I'm not. That guy's kind of, I don't know. I mean, you know, I know that's Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn's son, but he was a hockey player in the three. If you look at his nose and stuff like that, you can tell that guy played hockey. Old-time hockey. I don't know.
Back to CAV question.
Yes, the Flashpoint it's not out yet. If Colonel Kane was here, he'd be griping at me. It started out as it's been about a 2-year grind, I think. It started out as a little scenario pack with some around New Memphis and stuff like that, and it's grown into this huge thing. And I've been trying to pull it back a little bit so I can just get it finished and get done. And it just seems like every time I got like a week left, and then it all gets in the way and it gets stretched out. But it's close. I'm getting there. It's getting there. So, because I need to get it done, because I want to start on the second one. The second one's going to be all about Adenese and Ritter and Amethyl. So,
so we need to dual cast another CAVBoss.
That's what I told you over and over that I need like 10 of me. If I could clone me, we would be so much better off.
Oh.
Or even if you could like just record my brain. If I could download my brain to somebody, and then you guys could just have a copy and ask it questions. Oh, I can do that. Now that I've got his brain here, we'll just go right along. Well, you're lucky, Thunderhead, if you only need another you. Like I said, I need like 10 of me.
So Thunderhead wants somebody to paint miniatures while he paints miniatures.
Yes, yeah. So, but we're getting there. Like I said, I think that especially the second half of this year is going to be a big CAV time, big CAV stuff. I'm not saying no. It's too late. You can't come back. Can't redo. No do-overs. You only get two.
Who's the start?
Two's a start. All right, guys. Well, we're going to call it a night. I would like to get a good night rest again so that I can get back on working on the Badger in the morning. Woo! So as I have preached over and over, if you've got an order in, just hang in there. We're trying to get everything sorted out between me working on that and getting the shop retooled, and but we're going to start getting stuff out by the end of the week. So everybody, don't panic on me. We're getting there. All right. Any last thoughts, James?
No, I just
Monochrome
it
James
occurred to me earlier. Yeah, monochrome James. That's probably the best version of me. I need to go downstairs and make my CAV-CON order. I forgot to make one during CAV-CON. So don't close the store yet, John. I'm going downstairs and buying some stuff.
No, I wouldn't do that. So
okay,
we got you covered. All right, there you are. Now you're kind of gold again. You're kind of sepia.
It's me.
So it's all good. We can get the heat versions. We can do like the heat versions of us to close out the night.
So
let's see here. Let's go. We'll be Predator here. Dee. Let's see here.
There we go. Get to the Badger.
Get to the chopper.
No, it's the Badger. Get to the Badger.
There we go. All right. There we go. We'll go out with a glow. Make us look happy. All right. Say goodnight, James. We're out of here. We will be back. James will be back Monday night next week. We got Chris on Saturday at 2:00. He'll be back doing some sculpting. And who knows? Maybe we're liable to just start streaming in the middle of anything. Who knows what we might do. So good night. Take care. Stay safe. Auf Wiedersehen.
Juice.
Later, Gator. See you later. Okie dokie artichoke.